am thankful every day to have co-founders. So much respect for the solopreneurs out there. Frankly, I mean, I don't know how they do it.
Welcome to a special edition of the EVOLVE Voices podcast, EVOLVE at eTail. I'm still here to tell you the fascinating stories behind the people that power global commerce, just from sunny Palm Springs. This is raw, unfiltered, in the moment. I hope you feel like you're right there with me. I'm your host, Edilsa, a brand advisor, and the US host of the EVOLVE Voices podcast. Today's story is one of pushing boundaries. Allison's journey from brand marketing to launching MixMix, a cannabis-infused beverage brand that's changing the way we think about cannabis. After years of helping cannabis operators develop innovative brands, Allison is now on her own mission to reshape the non-alcoholic space. We'll dive into her first experience with cannabis, the goosebump moment of seeing MixMix in the wild, and what it's like building a majority women-owned business with friends. Today, as the founder of MixMix, Allison is helping people discover the true potential of cannabis consumables. Because why should wine or cocktails have all the fun?
Allison, hello. I'm so excited to have you here. Thanks. I was looking through, combing through like all the brands I wanted to talk to, and so I'm just about the story, founder story, and that small business tips. What's going on right now? And you're on one of the trendiest topics right now, which is cannabis. That's right. But as I was reading through it, I heard a lot about your founder story with Caitlin, who we just met, but not about your first experience with cannabis. I'll tell you mine. Okay. Yeah. I'll tell you mine. So I was a total perfect girl during high school, and in senior year in boarding school, my friends come up to me and they're like, "Hey, do you know where we've been smoking weed in all this time?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" "In the old squash court." So that was like my first time hearing that in a big way. But what about for you? What has it been like? Yeah, so I was also, I'd say, pretty straight edge, but I also grew up in a very small town in the Midwest. So I did have my first experience with cannabis in high school. So, not necessarily an endorsement, but, truth, tell us the truth here. I also had my first experience with alcohol in high school too. But I think, over time, with one substance prohibited and one not, my relationship with alcohol was set into motion, and less so with cannabis after that first experience. But I have to say it was generally a positive one. So I feel like those first experiences with cannabis rarely happen alone. It's always in that social setting, so. Yeah, that was my first time. Did it at all inspire? Because I know that you guys have sweet and savory tastes, all the founders together, but did that also inspire it? Was your early experiences with it, did it inspire why you wanted to start it at all? My early experiences with cannabis informed less of what we're doing now than frankly where I am in my life stage now. I mean, as a working entrepreneur, as a founder, and as a mom, as someone who has less tolerance for a hangover with everything that's going on every day. But also, as a young person, it took me a while to figure out. I have a real intolerance to alcohol. So over my lifetime, it's never been, so I don't metabolize it in the same way that a lot of other people do. It's very common in the Asian community as well. And so, in those social situations, coming of age, in college, all the things that you're mentioning too, I think I always had this relationship with alcohol that I knew was inherently not great for me. So you're in those situations, and even as an adult, you want to take the edge off, you want to wind down, you want to be social with friends, even if it's in your backyard or, whatever. And I think it was realizing that this thing that I'm doing that feels really good in the moment feels really bad after the moment is sort of right. So, a little bit more agency over my own health and wellness and all of those things. And I discovered cannabis but then realized that with what I was using it for, and just who I was as a person, the formats that were available were maybe not right for me. So it was really looking to create something that fit more into my life and that of my co-founders and the other people that I know that are really open and interested in cannabis and some of its therapeutic effects, but maybe aren't inhalant users or maybe don't need another gummy in their repertoire. So Totally. I can totally empathize, especially now, like my friends talk to me, including her over there. And I'm just like, it's after 2 drinks, I'm done. I'm home and I'm totally perfectly happy with that as time goes on. But as I thought about it, like MixMix is cannabis drink mixtures and gummies and just infused just infused juice, cannabis alone, you know. And as we go through it, one thing that as I talk to my friends, I said to them is, I can't think of why you would do mocktails. Like what is it? I struggle with the idea of, I get why no alcohol, but it's all sugar. Yeah. And so as you think of infused drinks, what's your why? Where do you fit in the market? Are you trying to figure out, are you a replacement to alcohol? Are you a lifestyle choice? How do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of both, but I'm the same way. So as I stopped drinking, or as I started drinking less alcohol over time, I also discovered like my distaste for mocktails. I was like, so I'm still out at the bar, I'm still doing other things. I'm like, I don't like these drinks. I'm paying the same amount for them. They're really just like fizzy juice, and I do compliment, there's a ton of great new beverages and ready to drink canned drinks coming out that have a little bit more of an adult taste profile and all those things. But, I also kind of had a little bit of that FOMO that I wasn't, the euphoric effect that I missed of like having a drink, for example, right? Too. You feel like you're missing out on a little bit of the fun that's being had around you with socially. So that's why I feel like cannabis is such a nice substitute. Like, certainly I still like to have a glass of wine every once in a while in the right setting and whatever. So I don't think it's an either or necessarily. But, we like to think of the mix drink mixes as for whenever you're not drinking alcohol.
Right. So I love that simple positioning.
Yeah. Whenever you're not drinking alcohol. And they're really meant to give you a little bit of that euphoric effect. So, I like to think that cannabis is a great way to turn the volume up or down on hot meals, right? So whether that non-alcohol occasion is something more in your everyday, like mixed drinks mixes also go great in coffee, tea, smoothies.
Oh, really?
Laugh ladder, hot, cold, all the things. So sometimes I use it just to kind of like, as I'm working from home and it's like all of those, our activities and the code switching throughout the day has changed so much. It just helps me kind of like let the good feelings flow a little faster as I'm transitioning into being a mom or like going to, a social setting or something like that. But in more of that on premise or in that social atmosphere, I think it's a great alternative to like a mocktail if you're having a non-alcohol moment. It's all of our drink mixes are less than 15 calories per serving. They are very subtly flavored so that they really can enhance whatever you're drinking versus like a true cocktail mixer or something, which can be really overly sweet or flavored. And they all have less than 4.5 grams of sugar. So it's and less than $3 a stick, so you can bring it with you. Like one of our favorite serves is just adding it to a little bit of club soda. If you're getting fancy with it, you could throw some bitters in there too. But it's that easy and it's that light, crisp, sort of refreshing feeling that you want from a cocktail. And you can have a nice little like higher vibe too, with that.
So you just discovered a grapefruit tree in the back of our Airbnb, and like sounds like
Yes.
oh, it sounds like it's such a good refresh.
We have a tart citrus that would be perfect.
Yeah, yeah. I think like when you talked about alcohol, it's like when you're not doing alcohol, when you're not thinking of it. Where does that mean about the places where you show up? So I just saw that in San Diego and Chula Vista, they're opening their first cannabis bar. Again, it could be cannabis drinks or cannabis infused. Where do you see it at a party setting? Do you see it at a lifestyle setting, like when you're at home in the morning? Like, where do you see your product of these?
For sure. So I think a lot of people will use it at home and in more of a solo setting, but we really like to promote it more in those social settings because I do feel like having an alcoholic alternative is so important to making those experiences more vibrant, more enjoyable for people. So the two sides of our business are really different, and without, going completely down like the regulated framework of cannabis and marijuana versus hemp, like our brick and mortar side of our business is through the marijuana framework, and we're currently available in Illinois. So in that case, like finding us at a consumption lounge or something, it would be a great place, I think, to discover it. On the hemp side of our business, which is how we can sell direct to consumer and show up in some more mainstream situations, I think showing up in that on-premise moment, like at a bar or at a restaurant, is like, you know, my ideal place for people to discover us and try us the same way you would discover, you know, another, like, frankly, a spirit or a beer that you might decide to like buy at home for another occasion. Typically, you kind of have the opportunity to try all those things and taste them, you know, in more of like a hospitality setting. But I think what's so exciting too is that those social situations are changing so much for people, right?
Love it.
I love it too. So, like a quick aside, like a couple weeks ago, my co-founder and I were at our neighborhood bar. It's delightful, but for whatever reason, no judgments, we were there on like a Monday afternoon. Then all of a sudden, all of these people are showing up around the same time. And then they start unpacking their bags, and everyone's brought like a knitting project or a crochet project. And on Monday afternoons at our local bar, they do knitting and knives, and everyone brings their own craft project and watches true crime on the televisions and drinks at their local watering hole. And I'm like, if this isn't the more quintessential MixMix moment, like it's people wanting to be social, be in the company of others who have similar interests, you know, and likes, whether it's true crime or whether it's knitting, but are doing it like at their, you know, at a bar and in a setting where they can easily get drinks to kind of just help loosen up the vibes and like, you know, put them in a more enjoyable setting.
I'm going to go back to the MixMix moment because I love that. But I love how things are changing. I was just at another small businesses party and blenders who I love. And it was just, we were just painting and charcuterie bar. There was no drinks around. We were just hanging out and getting to know each other and getting exposed to the brand, having fun with the sunglasses. And I feel like there's just been a big change in the air and this about like what fun and social means and just actually enjoying what you drink, which is really, really fun.
Yeah.
I want to hear about what your first MixMix moment was when you saw it out in the wild.
Yeah.
Like that must be so crazy. Like I started my own business now. I'm starting my own podcast, but I've never had a physical product. So like I just can't imagine what that feels like.
It is like such a daily series of highs and lows, honestly. Yeah. But like those highs, you really try to hang on to those core memories and those moments. I think when we first got our packaging, before I had any physical product in it, was like a really exciting moment for us because it was like a thing we could hold, right? But when we first were on sale at a dispensary in Illinois, we were actually flying back from a conference, and we already had plans to go to that dispensary in the morning. There's a great brunch spot next door, and we're like, let's go buy our product. And then when we landed, we were like, we can't wait till tomorrow morning. So from the airport, we like hopped in a cab, drove straight to the dispensary, and like the middle of the evening, bought our own product off the shelf, was like high-fiving all the staff. I think my co-founder was crying. Everyone probably thought we were crazy. But it was such an amazing feeling to like, as a mom, like this starting your own brand is like having your own work baby. And it was literally like meeting it for the first time. It's such an incredible.
Oh my God. That's your kids. Are they going to be like, Mom, did you compare me to a product?
You know, they're big MixMix supporters.
I love that. I love that. I think as you think of one thing I heard, you've had your MixMix moment, but MixMix people, your mom. Barb. I love that she had never really drank wine, beer, never smoked.
She did.
And she trying it for the first time. Like, how did that feel for you?
You know, it's so funny. We always play this game with our friends, too, who are in the cannabis community about, like, what did your parents say when you told them you started working in weed, right? And I have to say my mom and dad have both been so supportive of this journey. I think they are also coincidentally, baby boomers generally are some of the most open to cannabis consumption of, you know, when you look at different segments.
Really? That's actually shocking.
Yeah. So they're, it depends on the market, certainly, but actually older adults are one of the biggest purchasers of cannabis in the regulated market.
Is it because they were in the 1970s era? of like,
I think there's some familiarity with it, but really, I think it's a functional driver. So one of the reasons my parents were starting to experiment with cannabis anyhow, which they would never have done before legalization occurred. So it really was a game changer for them when it became legal in their state, is the therapeutic reason. So my parents, luckily, have their health and are wonderful, healthy, aging adults. But, they have some trouble with sleep. They've got some trouble with chronic pain, just those things that come with age. And I think we've all learned, our views about health and healthcare and wellness have changed a lot over the years. And if it's between them having to seek out a prescription medication from, a doctor versus like, hey, maybe I'll try a gummy today, see if it helps. Like it feels like it puts them a little more in control of how they feel. And it was working for them. But I think what was a really great learning for us as we were developing MixMix was they're definitely low dose consumers. I mean, they are taking it for a therapeutic reason. They're not they don't even care to get a before. Yeah, they don't care to get high. But when they go into a dispensary, they were getting offered a lot of edibles and things that just were fit for purpose for them. They were too high potency. What a lot of people don't know, one of the reasons we actually didn't make a gummy or a chocolate is because those are made with liquid substrates. So a lot of people will go in and buy a higher potency gummy and cut it in half or cut it in quarters and think like, oh, I'm getting a quarter or a half of the dose. But you don't really know if the THC is in the half that you're taking tonight or the half you're taking tomorrow. So sometimes you're like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit higher than I wanted. Or the next day you're like, I'm not feeling anything at all. It's because it's just the way that chocolates and or gelatins are manufactured, right? They're made with a liquid. And this is a dry substance.
something new, right?
I mean, we could nerd out about the manufacturing all day. But so for my parents, they were bringing home these higher potency items and thinking that they were getting like a more dialed in dose, and it just was not predictable, right? And not going to be a pleasant and enjoyable experience for them. So with our low dose drink mixes, they take one stick. They're familiar with sachets, like they've been using Crystal Lights since the 80s and 90s. The like a drink mix is not unfamiliar to them, right? And they can pour it into whatever they're already drinking, whether it's a tea or even flat water or soda, and get just the amount that they need and in a format that fits into something they're already taking. So for them, it was really about the therapeutic piece, and they have been so supportive. My mom's always like, I need more of this flavor. You guys should try this. Like, what? All customers, I think, are like the best source of feedback, but having advocates in your parents, you get it so unsolicited whenever you want.
I love that. What it shows is like your impact, like it's like you start to, again, you see it out in the wild, but then you're like seeing like how it helps your parents, could help other people. And as you're scaling yourself as a brand, you need to get into more stores. As you go through it. I'm curious, like, what was the first retailer that took their chance on you? How did it happen?
Yeah, there were a couple. So they were dispensaries in Illinois with our marijuana product. Two of the first places were Ascend Wellness. They have a wonderful DEI representative there, actually. And we were launching just around International Women's Day last year in Illinois. And it just, we kept running into one another. And there just weren't a lot of, I love it, female-founded cannabis brands in our market yet either. So the fact that we were doing this thing for, a slightly different segment or consumer type and with a new format, Ascend signaled that they were willing to take us into several of their stores right away. But also, New Era Dispensaries has been a great partner to us. So they have several locations in Illinois. They're a female-owned dispensary chain as well. And they're just very high touch, I feel like, with the brands that they take. And for them, it's all about bringing in new assortment so that their shoppers and customers can kind of like find the right, brands and products for them. So they're always taking a very open approach to bringing it very easy of those.
Is that how you're thinking through retailers? That like who has an open customer, or you just talk to baby boomers? Like, where do baby boomers go and shop? Like, how are you thinking through that piece? Or is it an organic store? Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, right now we're really focused on, so we're pre-launch, but very nearly ready to rock with our direct-to-consumer offering. So we're also one of the reasons why we're here. So we're really excited about the hemp side of our business and being able to serve get our product directly in the hands of customers, like one-to-one, getting that feedback loop more quickly, having the first-party data to understand who is buying and what they're buying, and frankly, where they want to engage with our brand and our product most. But as we think about, brick and mortar, and like I said, on-premise is also a really important channel, I think, for us. Having that hospitality moment for people to try will be really important. But as we go into mainstream retail, a lot of it's going to be, I think, where can we show up the best and find our core customer in a place where they're already shopping. So this is an adult use product. We will likely be closer to the alcohol section or someplace where, there's some sort of age gate for people to participate in the category. But we want to be in those places where people who are looking for no or low alc alternatives are shopping, and that's where they want to shop.
Yes, yeah. I'm excited for it to be DTC. That's really fun. I as a consumer insights nerd, like anything where you can get hands off the data is number one. I know you are too. It's for I think as I think of your story, another part that I thought was interesting is the fact that you started off a business with friends.
I did.
So people say it's not the best idea.
I have heard. Hi, here's a handle cop.
But it seems like you guys have done a great job so far of melding. And one, what made you guys take the leap together? They can have those reservations going in before.
For sure. I mean, one thing I will say is I am thankful every day to have co-founders. So much respect for the solopreneurs out there. Frankly, I mean, I don't know how they do it. Having co-founders is the best feeling when someone's having an off day, someone else is having a great day, and you're like, okay, wait, we made progress today, in spite of whatever is happening, because the support system is fantastic. I think I have no regrets about starting a company with friends. And I think the biggest benefit to it is the trust level was so high before we started. And coincidentally, the three of us are actually strangely pretty risk-averse people. A funny thing to say, given that we started a brand at cannabis. So when all three of us decided to do this, we knew it was a very measured decision and something we had all of that really studied carefully about before we decided to close. So yes, Matt, one of our co-founders, his family and I, we've just been personal friends for 20 plus years. He, coincidentally, coming full circle back to our conversation about alcohol, Matt's background, he was a beverage, in the beverage innovation group at Diageo. So as a 20 or 30 something, Matt's house was always the house you wanted to be at. Place to be, because you're trying the new things and seeing what was coming up. And he actually has been consulting for a long time independently, and he's had more and more low alc, functional, and hemp brands coming up to him, asking him to help them with formulation. He was like, something's happened. He's like, the volume of requests that I'm getting for like these types of drinks tells me that like the industry is moving. And then my other co-founder, Caitlin, and I, we had worked together at a creative agency previously. And when we had actually started in service side, working with other cannabis brands, because marketing our brand consultants. And, as one does, we were like, ready to make our hurry brand. We see a need that needs to be filled with a different sort of product for a different kind of customer. But I think that experience of having known each other personally, worked together before, we were all very open about the fact that there's going to be hard days, but we have so much respect for each other, and the trust was so high that it actually made the communication's just so much faster. Like, I've worked on teams where there's high trust, on teams where there's low trust, and those high trust teams just, everything moves faster, decisions, feel, there's a better, and then when you had those hiccups, you just feel like you can pick yourself up on a monster ticket.
I love that trust, because one, how do you work together?
Yeah.
Two, do you respect each other? And can you communicate? And those three things make it so that you are more willing to overcome your risk aversion. And it's interesting as you talk about how soloprenneurship can be. I was just having that conversation with a CPG investor in Chicago, of all things, and she was talking to me about how it is. She's a solo. She owns her fund alone, and it can be alone. So I can empathize with the fact of how much you need it. And one of the things she says is she always looks for brands with one woman or diverse founder. And that's what you guys are. You are a majority-owned women business. And I'm curious how that's come up when you, things of how you fundraise, how you get into retailers. How has that impacted your story?
So interesting. Until I started my own business and had a majority women-owned business, I had never thought about gender and my professional circumstances in the same way, right? But it is so omnipresent now as a founder. Sometimes it's very much the lead of our story. Like there are certain audiences, there are certain retail customers, certain investors who are looking for women-led businesses and are really seeking it out. Of course, we lean very hard into that and the insight that we bring and the work style that we bring and our approach to our business and how to TD. But other times less so. Other times it's really not a priority for folks. There are, things or relationships that we're seeking out that are still valuable and beneficial, but there, as a co-founder, but also the CEO of this company, there's been many humbling moments where, for instance, Matt and I are in a room together. Matt, Caitlin, and I are in a room together, and a lot of the questions or the conversation is directed at Matt, and he's like, "I'm the product guy, guys," But so it is, it has shaped a lot of our perspective about how we go to mindset, and then also how we want to behave as a business and how we want to pay our experience forward to the partners we work with, the customer that we serve, the places where we show up, or, if we can make it a better, more positive place for other women entrepreneurs and, women trying to do it all.
Well, yeah, and kudos to Matt for taking on, still being with women founders and respecting. I think that's needed. It's the vouching both ways for it makes a complete team. We need all those diverse opinions and perspectives as we go along. I think you talked about how it has ups and downs. And as we close, I think there are a lot of lessons as founders and co-founders that you learn the hard way. What's the one thing that you wish you would have known when you started?
Oh, just the one thing? All the things. Just all the things. I mean, I think it's been even in the first few years of operating this business, we really learned to trust ourselves in certain moments when it comes to making choices about this brand, this business, and telling our story. I think from a pure skill set perspective, we have a lot of marketing and branding chops on this founding team, some great product chops as well, and technical experience, operational experience. And for us, we felt like we second-guessed our own sales capabilities in the early days. And as we were selling into retail, we were really lucky with some of the customers that took us initially. And so we outsourced that. We tried outsourcing it a few times, actually, in a few different models and scenarios. And it took us, a couple times to really take a step back and say, nobody can tell our story better than we can, And if we can't, share it in a compelling and accurate and clear way, then we're not in any position to train a sales team to do that either, right? So I think there are certain moments when it comes to telling our story or the places where we feel less certain about our own capabilities, where we're like, Helen, we have to launch ourselves into it. We know this business and what we're building and our vision for it better than anyone else. And, if we keep doing that, then we'll either learn the things we need to learn or we'll attract the right people who understand it too. And
I'm sure I think one of the complications, good and bad, is that you want to launch a brand, but do you want to be a founder-led brand, right? It's like, do you want your face to be all over? Oh, yeah. I mean, how has that felt for you? Do you want your face to be all over? What's the story?
It is, we actually talk about this a lot too, because, so much of when you're an early stage brand, particularly if you're fundraising, I think so much of your story and the people who are building the brand matters, right? Because you're bringing it into existence. There isn't a lot of, proof of concept out in the world yet. So we do think it's important to be transparent about who we are. We all have slightly different whys about why we joined this business, and we bring different things to it. But also is like, my millennial self is very like uncomfy and cringy when it comes to like being in the forefront, So we try to be, and also as a brand marketer, I really want to build a brand with longevity that means something to people outside of just need it. Like I want them to have an affinity for the values of the brand and what it does for them and how it fits into their life. So I would hate for them to be buying into our personal brands more than the brand that we're building as a business. So we're really selective about when we put ourselves forward and in what situations, but as long as it's, helping our customers either understand something about the brand or the product, if it's creating some sort of transparency for people to learn more about what we're doing, how we do it, why we do it, or it's bringing the right attention, yes, we're taking that leap, putting ourselves out there, but we don't want to hang our hat just on our personal brand.
I think what it means is just figuring out where you are and where you aren't.
Yeah.
Like, how does it align to your values? And that helps the story come together. As we close, what I think you said something really interesting earlier that I love, DTZ. So we talked about retailers, but you're super excited about what are you most excited about in the next few months for MixMix?
Everything, all the things. Also, have gotten so many great insights while they're here this week. So we're so eager to put some of them to the test, but really getting that online shopping capability live for folks so we can start to get that direct spec from customers on a broader scale. It's been fantastic for us to launch locally, I think, in a single market to start in Illinois, where we're based, because we got a lot of that high touch direct feedback right away. But now to cast a wider net and hear from more consumers and, just start to learn from, what people enjoy about it is the most exciting thing. Share it with more people,
Where can people find you?
Well, you can find us at getmixmix.com, of course, and all of our socials are also getmixmix. And then my name's Allison Disney. You can find me on LinkedIn, as well as head of co-founders Nat Stable and Caitlin Randall.
Yeah, and thank you, Allison, for having. I'm just so excited to see how you guys evolve over time, especially as I think of my own lifestyle and how it's changing. And so many are changing, and you guys are hitting something right at the moment. And so it's really exciting to see what's happening.
Thank you.
Now make sure you subscribe to Evolve Voices, this leading and incredible project where our ambassadors are interviewing amazing professionals from all over the world so they can share their perspective and benefit you with their perspective, their knowledge, and you can understand what's happening in the different markets. Evolve Voices is a project part of the Evolve Commerce Club, the #1 and leading community where we connect international professionals in the world of commerce. We are now connecting professionals in more than 40 markets, and every week we invite an expert to share their perspective and their knowledge. So if you'd like to know more, you can always look at the comments. We have a link there so you can request your application and stay tuned for the next episode. Thanks for watching. All the best. Ciao.